Okay, it is maiden launch time for the Eyas, or Esky Mini Eyas 2 750mm Wingspan FPV trainer plane. It's pretty breezy out here today, but that ought to help us launch and land, maybe. Crosswind. Okay. Throwing caution to the wind, literally. Alright. Oh, heck, that took right off. Kind of floaty. I am just using a rudder here. Man, look how slow that is going into the wind. Alright, just using rudder because it adds aileron. I'm going to descend a little bit. It adds aileron and elevator when you're using your rudder. Let's see if it does that. Let's see if it does that when I am using aileron only. Now that is full aileron there. So you really need to use some rudder to get it to turn. You don't have much authority with just aileron. So I'm inputting a little bit of rudder at the same time. That is really floaty, guys. That is a lightweight plane for a 750mm wingspan plane. This will make a good beginner plane because it will fly very slow. And, you know, using that rudder to make your turns, you're not really having to do a lot on throttle management, full stabilization. So, yeah, that's hands off right there. It's going into the wind. It's a little bit of a crosswind. All right, so let's bring it back this way. But yeah, that is a very slow flying, very floaty plane. So, as a beginner, I don't think you're going to have any worries with it. You know, it's docile, very docile. See if we can slow it down even more. Look at that. that is really slow. Okay, we're heading downwind now. I'm gonna pick up a little bit of speed. That is full rudder there. That's pretty sharp. So let's see what it does in the opposite direction. Okay, that look at that. That is a pretty sharp turn. That is full right rudder, and I'm kind of pushing the nose down a little bit. I think it compensates a little bit too much with the elevator, so I think what I'm going to do is adjust the elevator down a little bit, because it does make it want to climb, especially when it's going into the wind. Now, one of the things that makes this really floaty and really slow flying is there's quite a bit of positive angle on the main wing, you know, which is also going to cause it to ascend a bit in the wind. But if you're, you know, for a beginner plane, you are going to have plenty of time to react to this plane. Look at that. That is very, very docile, guys. I don't know. I've got my alarm. I think I've got my alarm set for 6 minutes. I don't know, because it's a high kV motor, even though it's a small prop. It's a high kV motor, so I'm not sure how much flight time you're going to get, but I would think 6 minutes is probably a good starting point, you know, just to try and determine. And I'm really backing off the throttle quite a bit on this plane. I'm kind of going between 40 to 60% throttle, depending on if I'm going downwind or pushing into the wind. But pretty darn docile plane. Don't you think? Yeah, that makes a nice, that's going to make a nice beginner plane, a nice docile, slow flying FPV trainer plane. Like I said, you got plenty of time to. Oh, morning. You got plenty of time to react to it. And it sounds like my timer is just about done. I'm starting to get my haptic, so it must be about, it doesn't feel like it's been 6 minutes, but maybe it has. Yeah, and I'm having to push the nose down a little bit, is why I'm getting a little bit of porpoising from it. Plus the wind, and it's very, very floaty. So I'm gonna come around here, I'm gonna do one more circuit with it and then bring it in. Give my walkers a little bit of time to get downrange before I bring it in. But extremely docile plane. Now let's see, it's really floaty and it's kind of breezy out here, so we'll see how this landing goes. So we'll get lined up here. I've been in stabilization mode the whole time. I just wanted to come out the first time out and demonstrate it as a beginner plane. I had quite a bit of crosswind there. I had to put in some rudder and push it back over the lane, but that was definitely a short landing with that plane, and I really like the landing gear that's on it too. The wheels are pretty good quality and they roll very well. But that motor, like I said in the first look video, that motor is always like at idle whenever it's armed. After you first give it throttle or input, rudder or something. So when you land it, you're going to need to kick off your put on your disarm switch for the throttle. But let's go over here and let's see how much juice we still have in that battery. That's the stock LiPo that I was flying it with. And let me see here. I went 55 minutes over, or 55 seconds over. Let me reset my timer. Okay, so I had it set for 5 minutes. So that was 5 minutes and 55-second flight, just under a 6-minute flight. So let me pull the battery out of here and let's see how much juice we have in it. Now, I was just cruising around with it. I don't think I ever went over about 70% throttle. So let me get this battery on my meter here and then we'll take a look at it. Oh yeah, look at that. 7.7, 3.86, 3.86, guys. Yeah, and that was a 5-minute flight, so I would say you're going to get somewhere just cruising around with it like I was doing, because I was just cruising around between 40 to 60% throttle. You know, pushing into the wind at one point. I think maybe when I launched it, I was at 70% throttle when I launched it. But other than on launch, I don't think I ever went above 60% throttle again. So I was just cruising around at 40 to 60% throttle the whole time. Had it in the air for almost 6 minutes. I still had over, well, closer to 3.9 volts per cell than 3.8 volts per cell. So my guess is you're going to get, depending on how much throttle you use, I would say you're going to get somewhere between a 13 to a 15-minute flight out of this plane, leaving 3.6 volts per cell. That's pretty awesome. You know, that gives a beginner plenty of time, you know, for each flight session to get used to this plane. It's hard. Sometimes it's really hard to get used to a plane with really short flight times. Well, that's not going to be the case with this plane. You're going to get a lot of flight time with this plane. So absolutely great. 218 grams is what mine is, all up weight, and it's 750mm wingspan plane. That is a lot of lift, guys. You can fly this really slow, bring it in nice and slow and docile for your landings. The no drama launch there, 70% throttle, moderate chuck, and it took right off, no problems whatsoever. I was giving it full rudder and full aileron on the turns, and I was really surprised. I expected it to have some type of tip stall because I was going so slow, and I was putting in full rudder and full aileron to make those turns as tight as I could, and it didn't even drop a wing. Absolutely a stable little plane. So a very good beginner plane. All right, stay tuned. I will put more flights on this. I'm going to adjust the elevator down a little bit, and then once I get it trimmed out, I will test out the 3D mode, so stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the air.